Never done. All right. Welcome to the Hustle Faithfully podcast where determination meets devotion.
Follow us across all social media platforms at bit.ly/podcast links.
Mm-hmm.
We're continuing our series on From Burnout to Breakthrough, and we have an amazing guest on with us today. This guy is, all of our guests are special. This particular one is even more special to me. He is a dear friend of mine, somebody that has been there for me and is just an incredible man. You're going to hear a lot of his stories and his burnout to breakthrough. I don't know, maybe you'll hear about how he was in a hospital bed close to death and he came back from that to be super successful today. So tune in with us, listen to the stories that he tells us so that they can inspire and uplift you on your journey. Welcome, Andrew. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you.
Welcome, Andrew.
Jonathan, Ricardo. So good to be with you guys, man.
All right.
What a great pleasure and an honor to be hanging out with you guys, man. How you doing?
Blessed and unstoppable.
Not as good as you in that shirt. You look, man, it looks good.
Keep it bright. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate that. But yeah, I when I got the invite, I was so excited to be with you. Jonathan, you and I have hung out several times. You come to various events and that I do, and we've been at events together, and that's just exciting to be together again, even though it's virtually. So as you have already mentioned, my name is Andrew Schlag. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and Jonathan, I guess you and I met
about 3 years ago.
3 years ago now. Yeah, time has flown.
Right.
And started doing various things together. And did I help you flip your first house? Was that your first one? First two houses. Wow. So that was fun. So we've had a lot of fun experiences together. But yeah, I've just wanted to hop on and interrupt me anytime you guys like. It's your show. And I'll share a little bit about where I started. I was 21 and broke and in the hospital, as you mentioned, but backing up prior to that, being raised, I'm a preacher's kid, and being raised in a small town in the country, outside of the town of 400 people. The treat when I was little, after we got done with the day of baling hay on the farm, was to go into town of 400 people and get an ice cream cone.
Right.
So,
What was the town? What state?
Belrive, Illinois.
Belrive, Illinois. And what city was it outside of now? Is that the city that you grew up in, or is that the city of 400?
No, so the Belrive is the city of 400. Mount Vernon, Illinois is the next closest civilization of 17,000 people. That was the big city for us.
Gotcha. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah. I'm sorry.
So yes, that's kind of where I started, and entrepreneurial bug a bit early. My dad had a construction company, and so being around that and doing various little things to make money on the side when I was little, all the way from flipping feeder calves. I'd buy the little calf and raise them up half grown and sell them, and so that was fun ventures, But at 21, I found myself in a very difficult place, financially, mentally, physically, spiritually, really every way. And in ICU, I had, the doctor just said by a miracle, went from them believing I wasn't going to live till I think 6 or 7 days later, leaving the hospital.
Wow.
With them saying, "You are a mystery and only a few minor challenges left." So thank God I come out of that, except I was broke and now I had $80,000 of debt from that hospital stay. And of course that's, 2.5 times my annual income at the time. And so, okay, I need to do something. When you're doing something and it's not getting the desired result, you got to change.
Right.
And I just had said, God, give me an opening to do something different. Something that would help me provide better for myself. And I always had the desire to give back.
Right.
And help me, care for those around me. And I heard a radio ad from a man who's now a dear friend of mine, Ron LeGrand, the OG of creative finance and real estate, if you're around the real estate world at all. And I heard his radio ad. I was listening to talk radio, and that was in February of 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I called in. I got the free book and CD, only pay shipping. That was the ad.
Wow.
And I read through the book, Quick Turn Flipping, something like that. How to quick turn flip in any economy or something of that nature. And I read through the book in a matter of like 2 days. And prior to that, I had, been Googling how to buy my first rental house. And so I'd found some cheap houses in Mount Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, if I save up all I can and, follow the Dave Ramsey plan, maybe in a year or two, I could be able to get my credit fixed and have enough for a down payment. I could buy a house.
Wow.
And rent it out. And if I do this for the next decade, by the time I'm 60, I could be rich.
Mm.
And I didn't like that plan, though.
No.
And so when I heard the radio ad, it said I can make money flipping houses without money or credit. I said, well, crap, that works for me.
Yeah.
So I got the credit cards together I could. I got borrowed money, done what I could to get to a seminar in April of 2014 in Atlanta, Georgia, not far.
Yes.
Right. And that 4-day seminar changed my life. I contracted my first wholesale deal, made my first $3,000 payday.
Mm.
That was in April of 14. I contracted it, sold it a few weeks later. And then I bought my first owner finance or subject to deal at the time, owner finance, creative finance, whatever you want to call it. I bought my first creative finance deal, subject to, in 2014. I'm 21 or just turned 22 by the time that closed. And I was like, oh my goodness, I literally own a cash flowing piece of real estate now.
Right.
And so by the end of that year, I'd done 12 of them. And then in 2015, I had bought 50 houses that year, 50. So just shy of one a week.
Wow.
And I said, this is cool. And so I kind of went out and made a mess. Didn't know what the heck I was doing. And it started to build and learn business because I knew nothing about business really. 2014 is when I created my first LLC.
Right.
So I didn't know what it was. Didn't even know how to spell LLC. I'm kidding. But I started to find out about business and build some cash flow. And so fast forwarding, from burnout, but always blessed,
Right.
But I began to experience that in a real way. And as 2015, 2016, 2017 rolls around, I'm just hustling and growing and hustling and growing and building. And it wasn't until probably 2018, 2019, I really started to feel burned out in a way I can't explain.
Yeah.
And so for anybody who's listening and you go through these seasons in your life, just remember it's exactly that. It's a season. And as long as we make a change, for me, it's faith in God. It's surrounded by incredible people who I love and who love me. That tight-knit group of brothers who I keep close to me. The real difference maker, though, is how we come through the down times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because, when you buy 50 houses in a year and things appear to be going well, it's not a time that you're necessarily going to feel the struggle. Yeah, you're solving challenges, but things feel like they're going somewhat right.
Right.
But when everything nearly crashed in on me and I felt like a failure for those around me, I struggled internally. I felt less than. Some business deals went wrong. I nearly lost everything. And when that happened, literally in that moment, and I'll tell you how low I was, because I'd come up from a place that 30 grand a year was natural, less than 30 grand.
Right.
And now, you experience a 6-figure month, right? And it's like, oh my goodness, this is cool. And I was at the place mentally, spiritually, and physically so burnt out 2019, I literally think if you'd have come to me and said, I'll take your stress away, I'll take your problems away, you can work for me for $15 an hour for the next decade, I may have in that weak moment took it. Like, that's how burnout I was. And it just goes to show you, for everyone who's listening to this, because sometimes we look at somebody on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, you're listening to this and you look at it and you go, looks like they're the picture of success, which is true. And that's something I've had to learn to do, is just be authentic. I have ups, I have downs. I'm human. But it's easy to compare ourselves.
Right.
And so knowing that the person who is where you want to be either is or has faced as low or maybe even lower point than you are at, for me is a big aha moment.
Right.
Because realize then it's not unnatural that I'm going through the deepest, darkest, most spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally draining time in my life. Everything is crashing in. A lot of people experience that in 08.
Right.
That's where I started buying houses. But a lot of people experience that, and their whole life shifted overnight when Lehman Brothers went down. And so in 2019, things are having a challenge. 2020, as we all know, COVID happens and the world shuts down. And so through this time, I'd always said everything happens for a reason. I believed it, but I didn't believe it, if you know what I mean. And it was then that I truly had the opportunity to give up my faith in God and good and others. After you get burned out so bad, hit so hard, that's a temptation.
Yeah.
And so instead, for whatever reason, I'm forever grateful, but I was able to use that to pivot me to more gratitude, more good, and realizing there are incredible people. I just have to be a better judge of character.
Right.
There are incredible, loving, amazing people in this world.
Right.
That my faith can actually increase in this time. And it was in that moment I went from, everything happens for a reason, to actually knowing there will be a time, I can't see it now, but I'm going to look back on this and be able to help way more people. This is what I told God when I was in the hospital. I said, if you get me out of here alive, I'll help everybody I can.
Yeah.
There's going to be a time I'm going to help way more people, because I've been through this crap and I'm burned out and I'm broke and I'm miserable and I'm drained in every aspect of life. So looking back, while I would never wish that on anybody, well, almost anybody. No, I'm kidding.
Honesty.
I would never wish that. Sincerely, though, when you look at that and you realize that I'm grateful that it happened.
Right.
Because had I not been at that dark of a place, I would not wake up. And I'll share more a little bit about now in a moment. But again, for you listening to this, if you're in a high place or you're in that dark, low place, either way, know that life goes up and down. It ebbs and flows. Money comes and goes. Some soulmates, relationships, friends, brothers, people, some people last a lifetime in relationships, and some have been for a season for whatever reason. They weren't supposed to grow at the level that you are. When you're becoming an eagle, you can't, fly with the turkeys no longer.
Right.
So sometimes it's God giving us an opportunity to level up. And I guess I'm just so hard-headed, I had to get smacked pretty hard to level up. I don't know.
Right.
And so know that the faster we learn, we'll be given the test over and over again until we pass it.
Yes.
The faster we can pass that test, the faster we can get to the next level. Except it never gets easier. We only get better.
Yes.
Last year, my great friend and brother Leo Valentino had made a suggestion to me that I get to the gym and exercise the same discipline in my health and physical body as I exercise in my business. 90 days, 45 pounds down, and I'm start working out. I'm working out consistently. And I find that something happened. I went from 20 pounds. I tried to curl 50, and I couldn't get it done. Except now I can.
Right.
Well, did that get easier? I guess you could say it got easier. I think the 50 is still the same, though.
Right.
Really, I just got stronger. And so in life, it's the same way, because as we level up, the tests are not going to get any easier. And I think that's the challenge I had in that dark place. I really believed, if I can just get to 50 properties, if I can just get to 100, if I can just get to 200, if I can just get my team set up the right way, if I can just, and I didn't realize I needed to quit thinking if I can do, and I say if I can be.
There you go. There you go.
Because the moment I turned the mirror and I said, okay, I need to be the best leader I can be. Maybe it's not that everything around me is so horrible. Maybe it's I've been a bad leader. Maybe that's why I attract the wrong people into my life at the time. Maybe that's why I attracted challenging situations. And I don't say that as in self-pity or self-blame. I say that as in growth, because I get people come to me often. And for you listening to this, I've heard people come to me and they go, well, I just attract crazy people. So, well, if you manifest, that's what you're going to attract, and you believe that's what you're going to attract, you probably will.
Right.
And secondly, though, what if there's some internal hurt, challenge, self-doubt, unbelief, lack of confidence that's shining through, causing the wrong people to show up in your life, or the wrong situations, or frankly, not attracting the right deals? I just finished running a test in Scottsdale, Arizona, because I have people come to me and say, it's easy for you to say real estate's easy. You're buying in Evansville, Indiana, been doing it for a decade. I said, well, let me go to a hot market and call the suckiest leads available off the MLS and buy some houses then.
Right.
And so as people of wealth, we can make money or we can make excuses, but we can't do both.
Right.
And so when I started going, wait, how do I become the person I need to be? And so what evolved from that? And I'm so grateful, because now, I have the privilege to impact not nearly what I know I'm called to impact yet, and a whole lot more than I used to impact, because I'm walking in my mission and my purpose. And I'm only doing that because of the breakthroughs that happened from the darkest time of my life.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Ricardo.
I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to interrupt you, but man, you said so many amazing things during this time that we've been talking. That period in 2014, from what I'm hearing from you, was the heavy lifting that you had to do in order to become what it required, that enabled your becoming in 2019, where you overcame that period that you were going through, that you wouldn't have been able to go through that or grow through that if you had done the heavy lifting in 2014. Like, that was necessary, not avoiding the pain, but actually using the pain as the heavy lifting or the weight that you had to carry during that time when you were physically burdened. You was able to lift that in a way that allowed the next challenge to be lessened, not because the weight was less, but because you got stronger in that area. So, man, I just wanted to point that out. Like, that doing in 2014 became the becoming in 2019 that allowed you to lift a weight that at one time would have been heavy, but now it's not lightweight, but it's easier weight.
It's so good and very true. It's back to the illustration. 20s turn to 30s, turn to 50s.
Right.
Now, that's good. And thank you for pointing that out, because that brings me to something that's very important that I need to share before I share the now. Sometimes we get just what we need exactly when we need it. Actually, always, I believe.
Yeah.
Ask and you'll receive. And it was interesting because Leo, having talked me into getting into the gym, had said something to me. We're working out together, and it's just, if you guys are taking notes, write this down. Small habit changes. Small habit
changes.
Because that's all it was.
Yeah.
I went to the gym, try to do 15 setups a day, and nothing happens. Well, I didn't realize it's a process. I need to get rid of the weight before I start building muscle. At least that's how I did it. And so I said, okay, I need to drop this. So I go to the gym. Leo is in the gym. He's lifting whatever, 50-pound dumbbells, let's say. I don't remember exactly. And he tells me, he goes, get the 15s. I'm older than you, man. I should be lifting 50s. Right. He goes, get the 15s. So I go to get 15s. You can tell I was a little resistant to it. And he goes, never ego lift. That's how people hurt themselves, or don't gain. Never ego lift. Okay. All right. Easy to say. I'm with my brother. Like, cool, right? No challenge. The next day I go to the gym. It's amazing the timing it happens. If you watch in your life, it's always going to happen this way for you. You listen to this podcast today, it's going to help you step into the power that you're meant to be called into tomorrow. I go to the gym. I'm by myself. He had left town, or I had left town, wherever we was. And I go and I get ready to go get the dumbbells. I know I need to get the 15s. And this little skinny girl, couldn't have been over 22 years old, walks over there, grabs 2 50-pound dumbbells, and lays down and starts pumping them like they're nothing.
Wow.
This voice, it sounded like Leo, but it must have been God.
Yeah.
Don't ego lift. Don't ego lift. Don't ego
lift. Right.
So I walked over there. Okay, I know I need to. And I grab my 2 15s and I go back to work.
Wow.
You compare yourself to what you're seeing online. You compare yourself in step 1 to somebody who's in step 10. You're only going to hurt yourself, do yourself damage, get ahead of yourself, and get discouraged.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So know that you have to trust the process. And I think the biggest challenge for me and for some of you listening is you are so good at what you do. You're amazing at accounting. You're amazing in construction. You're amazing in being a realtor. You're amazing at motivational speech. You're amazing at whatever it is that you focus on. And then you decide, I want to go over here and start a podcast. I want to go over here and start buying houses. And in that business, even though you're a college grad here in your field, you're a kindergartner in your new business. That is the hardest shift for anybody ever to make.
Yes, it is.
Right.
I was broke. I was 21. I was kindergarten in every business.
Right.
Except some of my community and mastermind group is people who are many levels ahead of me in number of years they've lived. And they have to come out of their field of profession, not come out of it, but come from that world knowing they're darn good at what they do. And now they're a kindergartner here. And until we can lay ego aside and step into becoming like a little child, just believing. Remember how big we used to dream when we were kids?
Oh, yeah.
Anything was possible till we found out reality just didn't allow it. But what if it does? And what if our reality was created by our lack of belief? You can create your own reality. And so 2020 rolls around. I'm grateful. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm at that time still not fully happy with who I am, still having a lot of challenge and lack of self-confidence, really. And it was in 20, I don't know, was it, but a year or two later, and I'm growing, I'm helping people grow, I'm helping people step into their power, I'm helping people make money, and that excites me because I love seeing people succeed.
Right.
But we're sitting in Barcelona. It's like 3 a.m. And I'm having a conversation about life, about God, about money, about life in general. In that moment, it occurred to us, it was my business partner, brother, and I sitting there, and it occurred to us that what if, because I always said, if people can just have a healthy relationship with themselves and with God and with money, their life would be so different.
Oh, man, yeah.
Because when I realized that I'm made in God's image, I'm a king's kid, I realized that I am truly incredible in who I am, becoming more incredible every day. And my relationship with money is fixed. I no longer am seeing it as something that's hard to make. It's just something that is fun and being built.
Right.
My life can transform in every way. So we broke it down to 7 categories in the relationships and in our health and fitness and in all 7 categories of life, and said, how do we help people? Because, we all have that spiritual mentor or that business mentor, money mentor, or that relationship mentor, or that said, how do we create it where we can be, in our case, well-balanced men, for listeners, whether it's a well-balanced man or a well-balanced woman.
Right.
But how do we become those well-balanced people who don't believe that we're just going to pursue money and ditch everything else, screw relationships and family, right?
Right.
We want to have the amazing, incredible relationship with our family that we should. If you're married, you got kids, or you got a wife, or you got a husband, and you want to have that amazing relationship with your family. You want to have that relationship with God, your spirituality where it should be. You want to have that relationship with money and your cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
You can live your freedom life, your dream life. And so that is where I begin to fully live my purpose and my mission. Because solving the money challenge is really, I don't want to say easy, but it's the simple part.
Yeah.
Once we understand how money works, that money is energy, you can acquire assets at will. You can acquire, in my case, it's real estate. It can be businesses. It can be whatever you choose to acquire. You can begin to create, put value into the marketplace and get paid unlimited amounts of money in return for the value you provide. Now we can truly begin to live our mission, our purpose, give back, love fully, live deeply, travel, as I know, Jonathan, you do a lot. I love traveling.
Yeah.
We can begin to truly live our purpose, giving without hope of return.
Yeah.
That everybody we meet is for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we can give, that opens the door for receiving. Giving always opens the door for receiving. It's the law of sowing and reaping. It's never changed in thousands of years, and it won't.
Right.
Not that we give to get, except when you give, you can't stop the getting. It just happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And when you truly believe that, not just say, oh, yeah, I know, but when you truly step into that power, your whole world will begin to transform.
Mm-hmm.
So I just challenge everyone listening to really ask yourself, what is my next step? I mentioned earlier, can't go from what should be 15 to 50s. You've got to take the steps. If you're in the place that it's about getting the finances right now, then spend the next 90 days focus strictly on getting the finances right. Build that foundation, that base. Whether that's 90 days, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months that it takes you to get that fixed.
Right.
Now we can start on step 2. Whatever that is for now, maybe it's the finances are fine, but it's the marriage or the relationship or the kids. Figure out what that next thing is for you so that you can begin to have that balanced life in all aspect and truly live your mission and purpose full out.
Mm-hmm.
Because we never know how long we get. We can create more money by offering value to the marketplace. We can always create more things. I've wrecked a car or 2 in my life. You can always get a new car. You can always have new opportunities, except time is something that's spent. You never know when it's going to end, and you can never rewind it. Live fully every single moment.
Yeah.
With those you love. When you truly believe that, it caused me to begin at 21 when I lived that moment and realized that we can't really control certain things. It caused me to say, I love you more, more present in the moment, to be more grateful every morning. First words out of my mouth every morning by design is thank you, God.
Yes.
Alarm goes off, the text goes off, the phone goes off, and the thought says, oh crap. The words say thank you, God.
Yeah.
If I can control that first thought of the day, now I can go into my reading, my prayer, my meditation, my journaling, my workout, and my work. I don't want to be reactive, be totally proactive, and live life by design.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Hey, for everybody listening or everybody viewing this podcast right now, you want to connect with Andrew Schlag right now.
Yes.
If you look in the upper corner, there is a QR code that will send you directly to his Facebook page to where you can connect with him and find out everything. Well, not everything, but find out a lot of stuff that Andrew offers. He is a great, great person and somebody you definitely want to connect with. For those of you that are listening and not viewing, just look him up online at Andrew Schlag across all social media platforms. Andrew Schlag. Go ahead with your stories, Andrew.
Yeah. So just in conclusion, that's really what I wanted to be able to share with everyone today, is to be able to inspire. And in conclusion, and please do give me a follow. I drop tons of free value on, in fact, YouTube. I just am in the middle of releasing a 10 series free owner finance course on how you can begin acquiring assets like I did at 21 and still do to this day all across the country. But my objective is on this podcast today, number one, besides hanging out with you guys, Ricardo and Jonathan, because it's always a pleasure hanging with you, but it's really to cause those who are listening to pause for a moment. As hustlers, as investors, as entrepreneurs, as whatever your lots are in life, fathers, husbands, kids, wife, mother, whatever it is that you are, and roles that you fill, hats you wear, so to speak, managers, business owners. Sometimes it's easy to just get so busy. And I think it wasn't until I was burnt out, broke, and in the darkest place of my life, where frankly I didn't want to live, that I realized sometimes we have to pull back to go forward. I grew up bow hunting in the country. Every deer, I'll confess something here to you, Jonathan, you probably don't know about me. Every deer I've ever shot at with a shotgun, I've missed. Every deer I've ever shot at with a bow and arrow, I've got. And it's interesting because when I got my first bow and arrow, I was probably 14, 13, I don't know, early teens. And I learned something. It's a compound bow, 75% let off. So for my hunting friends, you know what that means. And pulling back 60 pounds, that means by the time you get it back, it only holds 25% of that 60 pounds. So what is that? 15 pounds. I was homeschooled. Forgive me if that's wrong. 15 pounds. Something that happens, though, every time you go to shoot that bow and arrow is you grab the bow and you pull back. The bow is sitting there basically useless until it's pulled back. The moment it's pulled back, it becomes a weapon that can kill, that can feed the family, that can transform your life.
Wow.
And it's not until that's pulled back and in faith, pointed and released. I want that to sink in, because moments of burnout is God pulling you back, aiming you, purpose, the mission, where you know you need to be going, except it's easy to just get busy here, there, yonder. It's God pulling you back, aiming you. And I want to make this point very clear. When you're shooting that bow and arrow, something happens. When you pull that bow and arrow back, any of you gentlemen, either of you gentlemen ever shot bow and arrow? No. Ricardo, you have?
Yeah, I have.
Something happens, and you'll know exactly what I mean. When you have that held back and you go to point it at that target or that deer and you go to shoot, there's two things you have to make sure of. One is that you have that arrow, a straight arrow. If it's not a straight arrow, you're in trouble. So make sure the knowledge you're taking in, the things that you're listening to, the podcast, you're so smart for being here with these guys, Jonathan and Ricardo, the podcast you're listening to, the music you're listening to,
right,
is in alignment with where you are heading.
Right.
Number two, the moment you let go, if you shot arrows much, you know at that moment when you let it go, if it's going to hit the target. And here's how you know. If you're breathing and you let it go slowly and naturally in faith, it's going to hit the bullseye. I'm a pretty good shot, or I was a decade ago when I used to do this a lot.
right.
If how you know it's not going to hit is the moment you let it go, you second guess yourself and you flinch. When you're not fully in faith, I hate to say this, but this is amazing right here. I hope you guys are taking notes. If you're not fully in faith, when you release that string, you are going to miss every time. And what was happening to me in 2019 is I was missing every time because I knew I had to be in control to figure out how to fix what was getting screwed up. It wasn't until I was down to nothing mentally and realized that I couldn't no more. And I said, all right, God, you got it.
Right.
It's on you now. I can't. That was the moment I released in faith. And when that happened, my world turned massively different. My great friend, Jonathan, I know you know him. My great friend, Marshall Silver, called me out of the blue on a Wednesday night. I don't know. And I'm telling you, when you are in those moments, God will somehow cause the right people, the right things and opportunities to show up like that.
Yes, he will.
It matters not what we thought. You know, it's interesting to me because it matters not what we thought about that person. You know, Marshall's a great friend of mine now. And I've told him this before. First time I seen him speak a few years prior, I was like, this guy's not for me.
Right.
Except now in this moment, everything had changed. And so for all of you listening to this, I just encourage you to take that step back, because it's not till we're pulled back. It's not till we take that step back. That may be a moment of prayer, of meditation, of reading, of journaling, a consistent morning routine, but you must step back in order to go forward. That's the message I had to give to you guys today.
Man,
we really appreciate
it.
Again, for everybody watching or listening, make sure to connect with Andrew through his social media platforms, Andrew Schlag, and you will be happy that you did. Andrew is an amazing, amazing person that I know on a personal level, and it is just a pleasure to have you here on the Hustle Faithfully podcast with us. We really appreciate you.
So amazing being with you guys. Thank you again, Jonathan and Ricardo. You guys are amazing. And your listeners are so blessed to have you in this podcast. Great being with you.
Thank you.
We really appreciate everything that you shared. And I'm going to turn towards our listeners for a moment. And just from what I gathered from the things you said, I want to recap just slightly some of the things you said, just to make sure that they understand everything that's been said and how important it is that they take this stuff in. There are things that Andrew just said just now that a lot of people will gloss over and will not pay close attention to because, I've gone through things. I know what I'm doing. I don't need help. But there's a lot of people that have been in situations where in the lowest times of their lives, that's the place that they tried to avoid being in because that's the place that they feel the least comfortable. The thing about it is that's not a place to lament. That's a place to replenish. Because just like me and Jonathan have talked about before, in that place, in the valley, we talked about everybody want to be on the mountaintop, but in the valley is where the river runs through. In the valley, everything planted next to the river flourishes. Animals come down to take a drink. The plants dip their roots in the soil and soak up the nutrients that are there in the water that's there, because in that low place is where all the nourishment is. And Andrew took the time in that place to recognize, I can't do this alone. I have to allow the one that formed me for this function that I'm now operating in. I have to allow him to put his hands on me and draw me back, because his aim will be true and his aim will be powerful. So I pray that you would do exactly what Andrew did, which is take time to replenish in that low place instead of fretting. Take time, allow God to place his hands on the one that he formed for this function, so that you can live life on your own terms, by design and not by default. Thank you for that, Andrew.
Absolutely. And one big thing that he said, among all the other mic drop moments that he had, was,
Right.
What if your reality is created by your own unbelief? Remember how big your dreams were when you were a kid, and nothing was unattainable.
Right.
Everything was achievable. Get the unbelief out of the way.
Yeah.
If you've achieved it once, you can achieve it again.
Yes, you can.
If you've never achieved it, whatever it is for you, it's still there for you to achieve. Keep pushing, keep believing, keep growing, and remain blessed and unstoppable until we see you again Thursday. Everybody, have a great week.
Remember to hustle faithfully.